Welcome to the NEPA Scene Podcast. We're coming to you live from Cole Creative in downtown Wilkes-Barre. I'm Rich Howells. I'm the founder and editor of NEPA Scene.
Hey guys, and I'm Brittany Boot. I'm the owner of Boot Photography Studio.
And we are here with Americana rock singer-songwriter Mike Mizwinski. I knew I kept doing that over and over in the car. I'm like, Mizwinski, and I still messed it up.
We go as Miz.
Northeast PA name.
Better known as Miz.
Right.
Much easier to pronounce. But so we're here to talk about his new album that's coming out in just a couple of weeks, and you have a tour coming up as well. A lot of local stops on that tour, including the CD release at the River Street Jazz Cafe. So we're going to talk about that and all kinds of other music-related stuff. So if you have any questions or comments or anything you want to know about Miz, just leave them right down there in the comments, and we'll get to those later on in the show. So, and first up, we have some beers to drink. So today we have a couple of different brews from Beer Boys. another sour, which I know you love so much. What do we have here?
It's an SPC pumpkin.
The SPC pumpkin. We have Sierra Nevada Celebration from a cask.
Yeah.
So that should be interesting.
Free Will Olly.
Okay, and that's the sour.
Sour.
So we'll see how those fare. Beer Boys in Wilkes-Barre has been a wonderful sponsor to us over the past year, and they actually have a big event coming up on Saturday, January 20th. It's their anniversary. It'd be their 18th anniversary celebration, which each time they do that, they have a tap takeover with a particular brewery who brings all different kinds of brews and special things that you can only get at Beer Boys at that special event. So this year it's Trogs Brewing, which is in the Hershey area, so fairly local. They're going to have a ton of stuff. They don't have the full list out yet, but we're going to be posting a lot about that event coming up very soon. So if you're a craft beer drinker, you definitely want to be there. It's Saturday, January 18th or January 20th. And I forgot cups. Should grab some cups. In the meantime, but we also want to give a shout out to one of our other sponsors, the Keys in downtown Scranton. They have the Charming Beards EP release coming up. If you don't know Katie Kelly, she's been in the local music scene for a long time. She has a new EP coming up from the Charming Beards. So they have kind of a special event going on. Well, thank you, Sam. Appreciate that. Yeah,
I'm playing there on Saturday, actually.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So Friday they're doing the EP release show, which right before that they're going to be at Alt 92.1, which is right down the road at the Scranton Times building. So they're doing a show there from 6 to 7 that's free. You can go to that during First Friday. Then their EP release show will be that night. E57 and Zaire Mountain are playing with them. And then Saturday is Folk Night, which has a lot of different folk singer-songwriters. So you're one of them.
Yeah.
And then who else was that? Chris Kearney?
Yep.
And American Buffalo Ghost,
yep,
which is Sean. So that should be a really cool show.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. Yeah, I've never played there before, but yeah, JP called me up and was like, hey, you want to do this thing? And I was like, yeah, sure. So it's going to be cool. I guess Brother Roy and JP and I think Roy's brother, Kevin, are going to like close out the night. They do all these like cowboy songs with like awesome 3-part harmonies. So I'm looking forward to that.
Roy just put out a new album too, so they've all got a lot of stuff going on.
It's awesome too. Yeah, his album's great.
Yeah, it's really, really good. If you like singer-songwriter with piano, you definitely have to check that stuff out. He's great songwriter.
Yeah, I love Roy.
Really, that's gonna be a great show. So definitely check out the Keys. They always have. I'm glad you're finally getting to check out that place because it's really cool. They're such a nice group of people down there. Everybody, they treat everybody like family, especially the musicians, the artists, and stuff like that. So
nice.
So that's a good place to go. And then we also want to shout out to the V Spot, which is also in Scranton. So Thursday is Mike Doherty. Friday is Big King Moose. I want to go just purely on the name. Saturday is Lightweight. and who are a really great cover band in the area. And Sunday is karaoke with DJ Huff. So thank you to the V Spot for sponsoring us as well. They're another bunch of great people who really care about the local music scene. So a lot of good stuff going on there. Our open mic there won't be back until March, but I'm excited to return there because that was a lot of fun. And we also want to shout out to Loyalty Barbershop and Shave Parlor. They have locations in Archbald, Scranton, and a new location in Wilkes-Barre, right where the old Cafe Metro used to be. So definitely check them out as well. I'm obviously not in need of their services, but those of you with hair should
I go there all the time.
See, there you go.
Good spot.
So if you're handsome or would like to be handsome, by all means head down to Loyalty. Any of their locations, they're all really talented people. Very, very cool. We try to ally ourselves with good people.
Love
I think
it.
around here.
Yeah, everyone you just named, rock solid.
Yeah.
Good peeps.
Can't complain. So and thank you to all for everybody to tuning in. I can't see your comments yet. I'm going to pull those up now. So if you have anything that you want to add to the conversation, please leave them down below, and we'll get to those later on. So the first thing I want to talk about is obviously how you got started in music. I saw that one of the things in your bio you'd mentioned is you were a big Grateful Dead fan, and that maybe is what kind of led into what you're doing now. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. Sometimes when it comes to like knowing what you want to do in life, I feel like the luckiest guy in the world, because there was never 1 second where I wanted to do anything else other than play music,
Yeah.
But both sides of the family, mom's side and dad's side, were a lot of artists, a lot of musicians, and I just grew up around it. My aunt and uncle play in Old Friends, which is a really well-known band in this area. They've been together forever. I don't even know how many years now. And my father is one of the best guitar players I know. He's amazing. So kind of grew up just around it. It was always like, it's a funny thing because people ask me about this a lot, but I genuinely don't remember like learning how to play a G chord on the guitar. I don't know. Like sometimes when I'm trying to teach, I have a hard time with that stuff because it's like it's like brushing your teeth or
Comes so
anything.
natural.
Yeah, I just don't I don't remember learning how to brush my teeth. I don't remember learning how to use a fork. You know what I mean? But it's the same thing. So I guess I was really lucky when it comes to that. But yeah, Grateful Dead, definitely. It's another interesting thing is that, I don't know, it just sort of worked out this way, but like my parents were into like really cool music, which sort of has made I don't know if it's made a resurgence lately or if there's just new generations getting into it.
Right.
But like I just grew up, like my mom took me to see like Neil Young, and my dad took me to see the Grateful Dead twice. Which not a lot of people my age could say that, I saw Jerry Garcia. That was like life-changing experience.
Right.
And I always liked the Dead. Like I wore like Dead t-shirts to school in like 6th grade. Like I really did. And like I never wore anything different. I always wore a flannel shirt and t-shirt. And like I had this one, I think she was like a literature teacher of some sort, would like let me borrow her like Jimi Hendrix cassettes when I was in like 5th grade or something. I don't even know.
Yeah.
But so yeah, music was always around, and I sort of, to answer your question, I got started by watching my family, and I thought it was so cool what they were doing. I just thought it was so cool, and I couldn't resist.
So you in other words, you've transitioned into being very hip with what people are into now, just by default, essentially, because so many people are now, with Peach Music Festival and things like that. Yeah. All those things are becoming so popular and reaching different generations that maybe wouldn't normally listen to that kind of stuff. So now, maybe people are listening to the type of music that you play and others play that they might not have before.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think however people get into it is awesome, like however, whatever roads lead you down to liking that style of music is cool. And I just sort of, and it's kind of neat to be in my position though, where like, it's never changed for me. I've always liked the same kind of music. And
right.
Now I'm sort of sitting there and like, there's all these new generations of like Deadheads who, some of them weren't even alive when Garcia was alive now, and they're totally into it. And I just think it's awesome. Like, wow, this is cool.
It's become such a cultural
Yeah.
reality.
It really has, yeah.
Like, I feel like a lot of people in that whole scene too, those shows and Peach Fest, and especially like doing the old-fashioned thing of touring all around, and those people are such music supporters that's why like those kind of events are so successful, because those people are the ones, like there's a lot of music supporters around there, but like the ones that are physically going to be at every show, like not miss a beat, like is a lot of that in that industry, I feel like. So it just keeps growing and growing and growing. And thousands and thousands of people at those events.
Yeah,
well, crazy.
What you said though, you nailed it. Like some of those music fans are like the biggest support. Like they will come to every show.
Yeah.
They will follow you to different states. You know, just look at the Dead and bands like that that followed in that wake. It's amazing. So I kind of feel like, you know, if you win that crowd over, you're in a really good spot. You know,
Yeah.
It's a neat thing. And look at Peach Fest. So the first year I couldn't believe when they announced they were doing it. I was like, wait, what? Like the Allman Brothers or? Wait, what's going on? And then now it's become like one of the coolest festivals in the country, you know? Not that it wasn't the first year, but it's awesome, yeah. So.
But yeah, when you're receiving national coverage, it's something that you see in like Rolling Stone now. You know, we'll talk about Peach Fest. It's like, wow, in Scranton, really? Like this is crazy.
Yeah, it's mind blowing. Yeah, put it in a cool way.
Yeah.
So.
Well, It does bring up, I was just reading an article like right before I left to come up here about the Nielsen SoundScan puts out a thing every year of like, you know, what sold well and what the biggest acts are. And they're like, oh, rock is hurting really, really bad. You know, that out of the top 10, you know, best-selling artists, you know, 8 of them were all hip-hop and stuff like that. Not to knock hip-hop or rap or any of that kind of stuff. It's just a very different crowd. And of the stuff that was rock anywhere in the top 50, it was mostly nostalgia stuff. It was, you know, Beatles reissues and things like that. The Guardians of the Galaxy 2 soundtrack, which had a lot of, you know, throwback music and stuff like that from, you know, like the 80s and the 70s and stuff like that. So, you know, it's interesting because rock isn't in the best spot when it comes to, you know, selling albums and stuff like that. But I think the stuff that it doesn't take into account is the stuff like you're saying, like the people who go to festivals and the people who actually go to concerts and stuff like that. They might not be buying albums every year that you can track somewhere.
They're supporting it in
exactly.
They're showing up and buying tickets to the shows.
Right, which I think at this stage in the music industry, that's really more important than, you know, album sales at this point. I mean, people barely make anything on album sales anymore, which is tough, especially with, you know, now you're putting out a new album. So,
well, kind of what you said about like tickets. Like I think as far as the top albums being hip hop, I mean, I like all kinds of music, and I feel like it goes in waves or circles. You know what I mean? And like what's popular now, or it kind of there's enough room for everybody to kind of get a piece of pie, in my opinion. And maybe the rock artists aren't selling the albums, but like you said, I had this agent that used to call it. He's like, you're in a tickets and T-shirts business. You know, and CDs were not on that list. You know what I mean? It was like
it's like there's some kind of gap in the industry where rock and roll and maybe some alternative stuff like pop punk or metal, they still do it somewhat the old-fashioned way of touring.
Yeah.
But I feel like, and that's a lot of their income and their revenue is the touring. But I feel like the whole jam scene industry and even folk, especially in the Northeast, like it's like the old-fashioned way of like hitting the road. Like I don't really necessarily feel like a lot of the other industries are as aggressive with that stuff, like covering ground.
Yeah.
You know, like obviously everyone tours, but I feel like with that whole industry, they like, that's what their whole focus is really just like doing it the old-fashioned way and covering all the ground, especially like West Coast, East Coast. It's just like, I feel like the most traditional and effective way to kind of gain that momentum that you see now at Peach Festival and, you know.
Yeah, like what you're saying.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. I try to, like, in my opinion, as much as people, like, maybe in my genre, for example, whatever, want to complain about that people don't buy, like, Americana folk records like they used to do when, like, James Taylor was first out. It's just not, it's not pop music. It's not on the pop stations anymore, whatever. You could break that down a million different ways, but the thing that I think is really cool is that someone like myself, on this, I'm on such a tiny level compared to, someone like James Taylor or something like that. But I could still go out into the world and I can promote myself. I can book my own shows. I've had some help in the past and I have help again now, which is great. But, and I could sort of make fans, like you're saying, the grassroots way, showing up in different towns and playing coffee shops and pubs and whatever else and figuring out, where your little niche is, and I can still make a living doing that and be pretty successful at what I do. So I think it's a neat, like, we have the internet now. I could put my music out there and put things on Facebook, and then someone likes one of my songs, so then they share it on their page, and then someone else hears it, and then they like my page, and then it's like this really neat thing that we didn't have. I feel like back in the day, if you didn't get radio play, I don't know, you know what I mean? I wasn't alive really then, so I don't really know, but I feel like it would be a lot harder. Plus, there's so many more people now, and there's so many more genres of music. It's like, I don't know. I feel like we're living in an awesome time right now to be doing what I'm doing. I feel lucky. So,
and especially with having seen some of your shows and your musicianship and the musicianship of your band and stuff like that too, it's a different experience to see it live than it would be to just listen on an album. Like the album's nice to have when you're not at a show and you're driving in your car to work and things like that. But there's nothing that really can replace the live feeling of seeing people play instruments and stuff like that, which I think, back to what we were saying before, it's kind of a handicap for rap and hip hop, where it's mostly they're playing a beat and the person is with a microphone and that's it.
I feel like a big difference
as opposed
in
to
that
a whole band.
Like that industry, it's more of like a community thing, and you don't necessarily see that at a hip hop show or at a punk show. There, and like some like the all ages kind of punk shows, like the local punk shows, you see that community thing, but not on such a large scale as you see it in that industry. Right,
exactly. And you're going to hear the song not play the exact same way as it is on the record.
Yeah, like I think you're absolutely right, Brittany, too, when you said about it's like a family now, once again, trickling down from like that Grateful Dead vibe. I mean, we see it here locally with Cabinet. Look at those guys. They have the, what is that hashtag that I saw recently?
The
Cab Fam.
Yes.
And like those people, they just love it. And I know a lot of them, and they're great people. And they go not only to hear the band, but to see each other. It's like a meeting spot.
They built so many relationships based on this one common interest, and they've made lifelong friends from it, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a different thing. It's neat.
We actually have a bunch of good questions in here. So,
oh boy, I'm scared to know.
So let's see. Ragu, who we all know.
Mr. Mountain Sky himself.
I miss you, Ragu.
So he brings up an interesting thing. The new song you just wrote with Brett Alexander and a whole group. That video just went up the other day, which we'll post that on NEPA Scene as well. So if you haven't seen it yet, tell us where that whole thing came from, how that came about. I think it'd be interesting to a lot of people who know a lot of the local musicians around here.
That's a great question. I'm glad, Ragu. Thanks for asking that question. That's cool. I wanted to talk a little bit about that. It all came together in about 5 days, from the song being written to us finishing recording. But basically, obviously we all look at social media. We're all involved in that, and as a musician, that's something that I do, and maybe more than I should sometimes. But I was recently scrolling through some news feeds, and and I definitely don't want to get into this world either, but I'm reading the political posts, and I'm seeing people that I'm actually friends with arguing, and one's posting this thing, the other one's posting this thing, and I sort of took a step back from it. And just sort of took it in and was like, oh man, I don't even, I don't really weigh in on any of that stuff. Maybe 20 years from now I will or whatever. And obviously I have my own opinions or whatever. But so a couple minutes later, I don't know, I just had gotten home from the gym or something, and I was taking a shower. And I don't know why I get really good ideas in the shower. I do. I just get great. And I was like, just start hearing the hook to that song and getting the lyrics in my head. So I got out. I tried off or whatever, and went and sat at the kitchen table and just wrote that song, pretty much the whole 90% of it in about 10 minutes maybe. And the next day, I think I was playing with Chris Carney, and I was like, I wrote this really cool tune, man. I got this really neat idea. And on the way to the gig, I was thinking about, it'd be cool to like record this tune with Chris. And then it's funny because he couldn't make it he was the one guy that couldn't make it. I feel so bad, Chris. I'm sorry. I wish you were there, man. He was like, that's a great idea. We should record it with a bunch of us, you know? And so what I did was I recorded it on my cell phone and then texted it to everybody and just said, hey, I know Christmas is coming. So, like, you know, Mazer lives in Vermont or whatever, but everybody was going to be home. Yeah. So I said, hey, are you guys around, like, next, whatever it was, Thursday morning? I contacted Joe Van Ween. It's one of those things where it was so easy. Like, I wasn't really even willing at that point to exert, like, a lot of energy making this whole thing happen. I'm like, I'm going to send a group text out. And if everybody's in, I'm in. And it was so easy. We were like,
effortless.
Okay.
That's when like the best things happen when you're not trying so hard to kind of like make it happen. When it's just like organic and awesome.
Yeah, and it's funny too because Joe Van Wee, who's a friend of mine I've known for a while, does great work with video stuff. He's like, you guys just come over in my living room and just sit down. I was like, all right. Like, we didn't have to worry about a location. We didn't, you know, he's like, I'll just shoot, you know, set up a camera or two. We'll shoot it. And the whole thing was said and done in about 2 hours. We did a couple takes of it. And it's neat, too. That take you hear is just one unedited take. We just sat, we played it, that was it. And then they did a different shot of, you know, of us, filmed it from a couple different ways. But the audio that you hear is just one straight take, so. And yeah, as far as to answer the question, too, that song is just sort of like, you know what, like, I just feel like we could use a little more of that spirit in the message of that song right now. You know, I was just trying to, in my own little way, just like push, like see what I can contribute to life. See what kind of like maybe I could just send a little happiness out there. I'm not a perfect person by any means, and you know I could have a bad day just like anyone else. But I sort of sent it out there just to say I'm just going to spread a little
bounce that back to the universe.
Exactly. So yeah, hope that answered the question, Rago.
Well, you know that brings up the songwriting on this album. What inspired the songs on this upcoming record that you have coming out?
It's another great question.
This album, what is
oh, my concentration.
So sorry.
No.
I wanted to get on the comment section too.
Oh, was that like us live that you just heard?
Yeah.
Somebody does that like
every time.
Every show. Yeah.
Oh,
I always want to bring it up like you have it, and then it's always a big interruption. It's terrible.
He learned to use the mute button.
But it's every time.
Anyway, an interesting point about this album, right, is when I'm a songwriter. That's what I do. Primarily, I try to write songs. I don't try. I can't help but to write music. I have to do it. It's like something that I just have to do. And I wrote all the tunes, most of them. It's been well over a year now since I wrote them. So an interesting thing for me is the album and the songs that are on that album is kind of who I was a year and a half ago. So it's interesting now it takes this long for it to come to fruition, and now I'm already working on all these other songs, and I'm sure a year and a half from now I'll be having the same conversation saying all these songs are who I was at this point in my life. But it's a long-winded question. I guess I'll try to, very long story short is about a year and a half ago, 2 summers ago, it was the end of the summer, it was like August, and I needed to take a break from life on many different wavelengths. And I went sort of, just moved away from New Jersey, moved back here temporarily. Let's call it a spiritual retreat. Went on a bit of a spiritual retreat. And while I was there, some really interesting things happened is I sort of had, I guess, like another, it's kind of like you think of your life as like an onion, right? And like you're sort of like peeling off these layers to sort of get down to the core of like who you are as a human. And during that time, I really had like a big layer was peeled off, and I really had this sort of awakening of like, what am I doing? What do I want to do with my life? I was really analyzing the past a lot and some of the decisions I made. And while I was doing all that, I ended up writing like there was about 15 songs that I wrote in the course of like maybe a month or two. It all just kind of came out, And while I was there, this really great guy's name was Andy Pace. He used to play drums for CNC Music Factory. Everybody dance. I don't know if that's a real drummer on the thing, but on the recording, but he played with them live. And a bunch of other cool people he played with. And he was like, I know this guy that owns the studio, and you should just go there once a week and record with this guy. So I would go to the studio once a week, and then it just started happening, you know. Long-winded answer. It's a lot more than that, but anyway.
Yeah, that's what we're here for. That's why it's an hour long. So
Yeah,
you
right.
can tell us those kinds of stories. So is that where the title then comes from? The title of the album?
You're asking all some great questions. I'm glad. I wanted to clear those up too, because a year ago today, I mean, it makes sense. Whereas a year from when I, releasing the album, my life was a lot different, or from when we got done recording it. But no, the reason it's called A Year Ago Today is because my buddy, huge shout out to my friend Stitch. He runs LogicPaws Soundlab. That's where I recorded the album up in Hawley. He did an amazing job. He bought a church recently, and he's turning it into a studio, and it's going to be unbelievable. And we were recording the video that you shared today, which is kind of like the first song off the album that we put out into the world. Mm-hmm. And while we were there, there's still all this clutter around from when the church was there. And there was a sign, it said, offering a year ago today. And it must have had something to do with the collection baskets, you know? And while it was there, I stepped on it as I was walking to set up or whatever. And there was this really cool footprint on it. And it was just the coolest sign. I wanted the sign to be the cover of the album. It said, offering a year ago today. It just had this footprint. I don't know, for some reason it looked like a piece of art to me. And when we were recording that video, you can hear me say I think they edited it out, but in the take that we kept, it was like, a year ago today. That would be a pretty neat album title. And then the guy who's putting out the album, Glenn from Banff Records, was there behind the camera. He goes, great idea. And you could hear it in the take. So that's kind of where that came from, I think people, knowing me, they think it's this big happy recovery thing. And it could be if that's what you want it to be, but it was more or less like that little story in itself. I don't know.
So are these happy songs? Are they sad songs that are on this album?
Touches on a lot. It's definitely a bit of a breakup album. That's a whole other story in itself. But I think that I had a lot of healing to do, but in a different way than I usually do. They're not really recovery-oriented songs or anything like that. Although a lot of people know that I'm in recovery and sober or whatever. And it's all over the place. Yeah, there's a breakup song, and then there's a happy song. And then
it's
there's
relatable no matter who's listening to.
They're more universal than my old songs. Yeah. Yeah, and then there's this crazy song when I called my buddy Mark Woody, amazing fiddle player. I had this song called The Porcupine, and then that turned into this crazy instrumental track, which wasn't even supposed to end up on the album. So it kind of touches on a lot of different stuff. But there's a tune on there called Heroes, which is one of my favorites on the album. I'm actually going to play it here in a minute, but that I wrote the night that Greg Allman died. Because another thing is the Allman Brothers were a huge part of my life growing up. I saw them even before I saw the Dead, I think. I saw the Allman Brothers a lot. And we ended up, after the first Peach Fest, cool enough, kind of working with some people that were working with them. And I got to go to the Beacon Theater and see those guys play and go backstage and hang out in the dressing rooms and sit on, I would sit twice. I got to sit I think I was there the last time they ever played, actually, at the Beacon. It was either that show or the show before, but basically just sit on the side of the stage, right Greg Allman's Leslie's, I could set a drink on it or something, it's right there, and watch that, I got to watch that from their perspective, and once again, another really cool thing for me, a kind of a eye-opening, something I'll always remember. So when Greg Allman passed away, that it meant a lot to me. It was it just sort of, I got home that night and I was like, man, Greg Allman died, that's that was a huge part of my life, the Allman Brothers. So I sat down and started writing this tune as sort of an ode to him, but now it's turned into this universal song where it's I'm rambling, I'm sorry.
No, not at all.
But, then we lost Tom Petty, and then I love Glenn Campbell, and we lost him, and then, so now I when I listen to this song or when I play it, I'm just thinking about Merle Haggard and Tom Petty and Glenn, all these awesome people. It's my ode to the people who went, my heroes, man, people who went before us. So.
And that's the thing too. Like you said, it becomes more universal too. Like when people listen to it, they might not get that. They might not understand that's a tribute to somebody or something like that. It's going to become their own thing, which I think it speaks to the music in itself. And the quality of it, that you can put something out there and have people take it different ways and have it mean something to them and stuff like that. Have you ever had any interactions with people coming up to you and saying, "Oh, that song means a lot to me," or something like that?
Yeah, it's funny that you say that. One of the first times I played it was actually I wore this shirt purposely at Cornstalk, which my buddy Anthony runs, which is another Northeast PA staple now. Really cool
Super
festival.
Yeah, really cool festival.
Love it. Really had a great time this past year. I think I played every day, but I played that song "Heroes." One of the first times I played it was there, and the next day someone wrote a thing on my Facebook page. It was a comment where they're like, it was really nice. It was like, "Your set was great yesterday," and something about I saw grown men weeping or something. It was really heavy, and I was like, wow, that song must have really touched someone, So it's a pretty neat thing.
That's trippy.
Yeah.
Do you want? Let's see. Let's ask another question from our audience here. Are there any plans of touring outside Northeast PA? Because you do have a lot of stuff around here. This is from Corey Warnick. He said, "California bound, maybe? Please."
Another great question. Actually, that's something else I wanted to kind of clarify too. Is we're calling it a winter tour. It's really more like a few little runs combined together. Right now, where I'm at with touring is I've been playing a lot locally, and I get a lot of love from this area, and I love playing this area. We are starting to branch out. That's one of the goals that we're working on in 2018. There's a lot more, the circle's starting to get wider again, which is pretty cool. And I believe it or not, do have something in the works to get out to California by the spring. I hope that happens. It's sort of in the early stages right now, but there's been a few new little thing, a couple little things going on with that. But everybody always asks about Colorado too, and I really hope to get out there to play soon. Right now, I just put a great band together. It's such a good band, and we got it. It's kind of got to be logical, you know what I mean? For us right now, it doesn't make the most sense just to up and go to Colorado and California. We got to sort of focus on really Northeast, or it's really more like Pennsylvania, New York, and New Jersey right now. I got a lot of love from those states, and we're sort of going to put this album out, play a bunch of shows in the region, see what comes of it, and take it from there. But yeah, I mean, obviously, man, I'd leave tomorrow to go. I want to go to Seattle. I want to go everywhere, So hopefully we'll get there.
I'm sure.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll say about that too is I've been really lucky to travel with a lot of different bands and see a lot of the country and do some really cool stuff. But the thing that's different this time is, like recently I was actually offered to do a really neat thing with a Grateful Dead band, another band that's really well known. I'm not going to elaborate much, but it was hard for me to turn it down and be like, I can't do it, But I'm really going full steam ahead with my own music right now. It's just kind of what moves me, and so that's going to be the goal, is to really, if we could get out to California just playing, original stuff as a, band from this area, that would be a great accomplishment. So hopefully down the road I'll be able to get out there, doing original music,
So in other words, support local music, and it will have the chance to grow and to get to other states. So go see the original stuff. There are a lot of great tribute acts and a lot of good stuff going on too. Don't ignore that. But there's a lot of original musicians trying to get out there as well. So
yeah, for sure.
On that note, Michael Baker says, do you ever think about leaving Northeast PA and maybe trying a bigger place, or going to Nashville or something like that? That seems some local musicians have gone out to Texas and all kinds of places recently. Would you consider moving out to one of those types of places?
Yeah. But the interesting thing is, Northeast PA is a great place to live, to do what I do. you know, I mean, not to put it out there, but it's not really that expensive to live around here.
Right.
And it's close to a lot of major cities. And, you know, I was living 8 miles from the Holland Tunnel for the last 2.5 years before I moved back.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
So it was right there, and it wasn't the best time in my life, but I will say that for me right now, I actually, for the first time in a very long time, I have my own house, however humble it may be. So I could like have band rehearsals in my basement, record tunes there, live by myself with a big backyard, get in my car the next morning and be in Brooklyn in 2 hours and change, be in Philly, Baltimore. You know, the list just goes on, and it's hard for me right now to want to leave that, because also I have so much support around here. I feel like it's like I'm going to build on that, you know. Austin is an awesome city. Nashville too. My God, I don't know. That's a tough question.
This is just where it's at right now.
It's just exactly. I'm doing like what's right in front of me. What am I doing today? You know.
Sure.
Tomorrow I'll wake up and I'll do tomorrow. And a year from now, you might be having this conversation with me, and I might not even live here anymore. I have no idea.
Sure.
So.
Greg Price, to keep that going, he said, do you have any plans to play Downtown Arts again?
I love that place.
That is a cool venue. I
just love that place. I don't know. Yeah, I want to keep that Thanksgiving tradition going. I really do. Yeah, that place is awesome. So yeah, I'm always looking for an excuse to play there. I love that place.
So when and where will, to get back to the new album, when and where will the new album be available? Where can people get that?
Awesome. Yeah, so we're doing the official release show is Friday, January 26th at the Jazz Cafe. Mm-hmm. That will be the first show that we're going to have, full merch table with the new albums going to be available to buy as a physical copy at that show. And then all the shows thereafter, obviously, it'll be available at. But it's not going to actually be released like to Spotify or the world until Valentine's Day.
Okay.
We said February, and I just figured Valentine's Day is right in the middle of the month.
Yeah.
And it's Valentine's Day, so I'm just gonna put it out on Valentine's Day. So yeah, if you don't live in this area or you're not gonna be able to make it to a show, unfortunately you won't be able to get it till Valentine's Day. But on that day, yeah, we're gonna put it out to the world.
So Robin Perda, so you can pick it up at the show, or it can be your Valentine's Day gift.
Cool.
To get back to we mentioned the Grateful Dead. So you're working with one of their historians and publicists. Could you talk a little bit about that and how that ended up happening?
Yeah, I'd love to. Dennis, wow, what an amazing thing that happened with that. Years ago, when I put out East Hope Avenue, I had a guy that did a local Dead show in the Catskills in upstate New York, and he liked what we were doing, and he let me out, come play on his show. Dan, thank you, you're an awesome guy. And when we were about to release the album, I think we gave him a copy before it was released, and I don't know how it came about, but he's like, I should just send this to Dennis McNally and see what he thinks about it. I was like, yeah, sure, send him a copy, thinking that we wouldn't hear anything or whatever. And Dennis got right back to us. Was like, I love this album and I'd love to work with these guys, and we were blown away. So he did the first, my first record. He did the PR campaign for that, and we've worked together ever since. It's been really neat. I've kept touch with them. I was supposed to go out to San Francisco to meet with them a few years ago, and I can't remember why I didn't. I can't imagine now what kind of excuse, why didn't I just go? But yeah. I'm sure we'll get to meet, here if I'm going to California in a few months here, we'll work that out. But so I called him up a few months ago. I was like, got a new album. I really want you to hear it. Sent him a couple tracks. He loved it. And I think tomorrow I'm actually going to release the press release. I just feel really lucky because Dennis he's a great publicist. He has a lot of connections with some great radio stations and some great, media outlets. Obviously, he worked for the Grateful Dead for all those years. But it was just such a neat thing when I can't imagine how many people approach him or how many CDs he's gotten in his life. He really hasn't worked with a lot of people. I know he just got done doing Steve Kimmock's last release, which is really cool, but it's a really short list of people he's worked with, and I'm just like floored that, you know, to be added on that list and to have him. He wrote our press release this past week, and I just read it for the first time, I think the day before yesterday or something, and it's crazy still to be like reading this thing, like, you know, reading a press release about what he likes about the tunes, and I think I'm gonna kind of put that out in the world tomorrow so people get to read what he said about it, and it's exciting. So yeah, Dennis, I'm sure you're not listening, but thank you. It's a really, really cool thing to work with him, and he's a really last thing I'll say about Dennis, he's a really knowledgeable, intelligent guy, obviously, to be a music historian. So every time I talk to him, there's some other like gem of wisdom that gets passed down, or says some really cool things that, you know, make you sort of stop. And later on that night, I'll be reflecting, be like, wow, that was heavy, like what he said. You know, I'm going to use that in life. Yeah. So it's cool. Yeah.
He's probably got a million road stories and things like that to share. I'm sure you probably have a few. Is there anything that sticks out to you as a particularly good story, good or bad, in terms of, you know, being an independent musician and getting out there and playing shows? I'm sure you've had some good and bad experiences out on the road and playing shows and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Memorable that sticks out?
I'll go right off the top of my head. So since we're talking about California, one of the coolest things that happened to me years ago is the first band I ever went on the road with, right? My first gig, like this is going from being just this local guy in Northeast PA. They called me. It was a band I opened for at the Jazz Cafe, actually. They were these guys called Gongzilla. They were in this band called Gong, which is a really, if you never heard of Gong and you're into like fusion or like progressive rock or even like the modern sort of whatever you would call like that, the Disco Biscuit sort of sound.
Yeah.
Just listen to Gong. My God, what these guys were doing in the 70s was, I didn't even know people made music like that. There's this album called Espresso and Espresso 2. Killer records. Anyway, open for these guys. They called me the next day. They're like, hey, we loved your playing last night. Do you want to join the band and come on the road with us? And I was like, sure, okay. Great. Your first gig is at the Troubadour in L.A. Don Preston from Frank Zappa and the Mothers is sitting in. Jeff Pivar, who's David Crosby's guitar player, is sitting in. The guys from Humphreys McGee are sitting in. The guys from Mo are sitting in.
Oh my God.
And I was just like, are you serious? Like, is this? So anyway, my first road experience was getting on a plane, flying to LA for the NAMM show, and playing this insane, like, all-star jam. Yeah, it was crazy. I had to play the first guitar solo in the first song. So I was, like, shaking in my shoes, and then I had to pass it to Jeff Pivar, who's, like, one of the best guitar players in the world. It was crazy. He just played this slide solo that was, like, gave me the chills. So anyway, that was obviously cool road story there, or whatever you would want to call that. But another good road story real quick is like I listened to Mazer's podcast. He's a great friend of mine. We played together for years. He did a great job a few weeks ago when he was on.
Yeah.
And he talked about me, Mazer, Dane, Matt Gabriel, another really good friend of mine, bass player for the Electric Gentleman, Dustin Douglas. Mm-hmm. We bought this freaking school bus. It was a short bus. I don't know why we bought it. Me and Dane picked it out. Looking back, I don't know what was going through our minds. Why we didn't buy like a newer, more reliable model? We bought this insane-looking short bus. Dane built bunk beds in it out of wood. The thing was like a death machine. If we ever got in an accident, we were like sleeping up on top of these wooden planks. And the one summer, we just hit the road, and Mazer was talking about, but it was one of the best summers of my life. I think we had Josh Karras, who's obviously now drums for Cabinet or whatever, another great friend of mine. He did, I think, half the run, and I want to say Matt Kester did another half of the run or something like that. But it was just insane, driving around in the school bus. We would show up to a festival and like park it next to the stage, and all these people would be coming on and off, and it was just a great summer, you know. It was one of those summers where like you're getting hotel, you know, like obviously we weren't rich, you know, at the time. So you get like, we had a tour manager, this guy BC, and sometimes Keith Litzenberg would come in the bus with us, and we'd like get like one or two hotel rooms. A lot of times it would be one hotel room, so I'd be like sleeping in the bed with like Mazer, like waking up like drooling, like oh, like. But it was fun, you know what I mean? Like it was a really memorable experience. Yeah.
Well, that actually answers Matthew Freehan's question. He had asked about that very thing, about Justin Mazer and the Dane Gabriel. So that's
yeah, two of my favorite dudes right there. I mean, I could just go on for hours. I don't know how we're looking on time. I feel like a motor mouth over here, but yeah, those guys. And then to one more story. With both of those guys. One time we showed up. So when you're on the road and you're like playing, like it's bizarre. You know, one night you're playing a festival or something and it's awesome and people are genuinely involved. The one time we played this place, I'm not going to say where it was. I don't even know if the place still exists, but it was in Charlottesville, Virginia. We showed up with the bus, the whole thing, and we played a sushi restaurant about a third the size of this room right here. And it was the worst gig I've ever played in my life. We showed up and the owner's like, yeah, you guys got to go get the PA in the basement. Like, go grab that. And we're used to, at least there's a sound guy at the gig, or, you get there, there's a PA or something. We're like, okay, so we're down in this dungy basement. We had to move the PA up. You're set up like this far. The bar's right here. Like, we're like in people's way just by being there.
Yeah.
And it was just bizarre. Like, there's a lot of stories like that where people back home think that you're living this like extravagant, this glory,
You're in like a big tour van.
Yeah, and if they could have only saw like just like a little screenshot of what that day was like for us, it was depressing. So yeah, that's the whole other side of it.
Yeah.
But,
and it's one of those things where you really don't know until you get there a lot of times. Like, how would you know that it was going to be like that until you arrive?
Exactly. Yeah, no idea. I mean, that's a little bit on the booking agent's fault,
Sure.
But, you'll have your good and bad with anything, so...
5 minutes to 8.
Did you want to jump in with anything before we wrap up and Miz will play another song for us?
I'm just excited all these great things are happening for you. I feel like you really put your heart and soul into what you do, and it's really awesome to see so many people be so receptive and supportive. Especially like just locally. We were talking about Justin and all the great people, great musicians around here. It's like I said before,
really
such
time.
a good community of people. So I'm just really happy for you.
Thank you. It really is. We have a great community here. If anyone didn't see that video we put out the other day, I just called all those guys. Those musicians all live around here.
Yeah.
And we all got together, and the people around here are so cool. I mean, just this morning I woke up, someone made a MiZ fan Facebook page of some sort, and all these people are jumping in, and they're writing these. Someone wrote a story today. I was almost in tears reading it. I just feel really lucky to be doing what I'm doing, to have a clear mind, be healthy, and sort of just sort of living my dream at the moment. So yeah.
Yeah, everyone's rooting for you.
Yeah, thank you. It's
Yeah,
really cool.
I mean, not you brought it up, not to get too much into it, but you mentioned you're in recovery. A few months ago, we had a documentary filmmaker on who talked about the opioid epidemic in the area and all that kind of stuff going on. How what advice would you give to anybody who's going through that kind of stuff right now, who's trying to get through that, or has a family member that's dealing with that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question, and it's tough to answer, but I've been down those roads many times. I mean, my God, I've been through many treatment centers, was a slave to the methadone clinic for a long time, although that it can do good things, in the right way or whatever. But anyway, the only basic thing I could say is that there's always hope. There's been times in my life where it really felt like no one cared, and that I might as well just end my life. Like it got to that point a few times in my life, and where that seemed like a pretty good idea. But there's always hope. There's always someone out there that's willing to help. They might not be sitting in front of you, or you might not have their number in your phone, but they're out there. There's really good people out here. And the opioid epidemic is exactly, what you just said. It's an epidemic right now. And I just hope that there's enough awareness that gets spread around here where people could really start to get to sort of the root of it. I think a lot of people want to blame drug dealers, or it's a lot deeper than that. There's got to be a reason why we're taking, why are people doing opiates? Why, I did a lot of work in here, and I think that's where it starts. You know, it's easy for me to look out here and blame other people, but for me personally, I had to get down to what's going on inside here and deal with that and heal. So I just hope people don't lose hope. And yeah, I'm speaking at a thing in Scranton in April, and there'll be more on that getting released soon. So yeah, just follow me online, or you know, I don't post too much stuff about that, but I definitely like to make it known that, you know, I'm sort of on that path now, and I plan to stay on it. So
Awesome.
I think it's good for people to
Congrats.
see that there is another side to their life that they might not know about just yet.
yeah,
You know?
I really feel like I know we're getting towards the 8 here. I just really feel like we're as humanity, we're turning a page. We're something's happening where people are waking up, and then they're realizing on so many different levels. They're just sort of, just like I said before, they're like the onion. We're peeling off these layers, and we're really realizing, like, hey, why are we here? Who am I? What am I here for? You know, these really interesting things that are sort of coming out for me, and I'm watching it happen to other people. They're sort of waking up and being like, you know, the last thing I'll say is this: my new thing in life, right, is, and I find myself asking myself this question daily, and I love it, is that, and I learn from my past mistakes. I try to. Sometimes I have to make the same mistake 10 times, but I say, any decision in life, I say, is this going to matter when I'm on my deathbed, right? Because we're none of us are making it out of this. We're all going to die, right? So when I'm on my deathbed, whatever I'm going through, whatever's stressing me out, or if there's a big decision, I think to myself, is this going to matter? Am I going to be glad I did this when I'm laying on my deathbed? You know what I mean? Or if I'm really upset about something, is it going to matter? You know? Like those heavy decisions that you have to make in life. I always try to look at that scenario of like, no, you know, we're all going to die. So am I going to be glad I did this someday? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe am I doing this for improper reasons? Like in the past, you know, I found myself doing certain things just to like get ahead, you know, or to make more money, or to be more popular. And those things don't really matter. You know what I mean? You're not going to be glad that you cut corners, screwed people over, stressed yourself out in order to make a buck. You're not going to be happy you did those things when your life's over, you know?
Right.
So, I ranted again. That's it.
That's a good philosophy to adopt.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I'm sure a lot of that came out through the music in some form or another, even if in an abstract way.
Yeah. Absolutely. Did.
And the song you're going to play?
Oh yeah, I'm going to do that. The song is called Heroes. Like I said, it's sort of my ode to all the amazing fallen artists we've lost recently. So
Awesome.
Very cool.
I'll go do that.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Go with the wind upon your back. Don't ever worry, just keep wandering that way. Brief is our time upon this earth. Don't underestimate the gift you have each day. And don't ever change, just be yourself. And don't burn your dreams for someone else. Cry if you wanna cry, and sing if you wanna sing, and love if you wanna love. You're all you got, and that's good enough. Now it's time you shine like all you can. I will go on. Now that my heroes are gone. Now silence fills my windowsills. My bedroom floors and dresser drawers don't seem the same. I search the dawn in all its glory for some meaning, but all I hear back is your name. They skipped a heartbeat on the street, and the world stopped shuffling their feet. So cry if you wanna cry, sing if you
sing. And love if you wanna love. You're all you got, and that's good enough. Now it's time you shine like all you can. I will go on, now that my heroes are gone. Just wanna thank you one last time, 'cause you lit a fire in my mind. So cry if you wanna cry, and sing if you wanna sing, and love if you wanna love. You're all you got, and that's good enough. It's time you shine like all you can. We will go on, now that our heroes are gone.